Welcome back to our IS channel, the lecture series. So we are continuing the unit 3, which is aptitude and key foundational values for civil services. We continue the series with the part 2. So the Nolan committee has laid out some principles, which is like the basic tenets of any answer writing you have to do regarding the civil services value systems. So these 7 qualities have to be very well mentioned in your answer sheet. Right away, just hit on to the point, writing these 7 values like selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. So what is selflessness? Selflessness of Mother Teresa is a very good public value system in an individual. So what is it? Selflessness is nothing but for taking decisions in the public office in terms of the public interest, and then not to do anything that will gain you private financial gain, but you have to always see for a public interest gain. And integrity says that you should not place the holders should not place anything of financial obligations in their individuals as well as the organization level, which they can influence their performance of the duty. So any kind of contract based obligation where there is a quid pro quo, you shouldn't go get influence in fact by them. And then there is an accountability and objectivity. Objectivity is nothing but keeping free of your cognitive thoughts from away of kind of prejudices or subjectivism. You need to have a rational thinking. You have to see everybody equal under your working administrative level. So how is it ensured? Making public appointments, contracts, and recommending individuals for any kinds of rewards or benefits, drawing out the beneficiaries of any schemes to be made based on exclusively on the basis of merit and the criteria which is under the law purview. Then we have the accountability. You have to be always accountable to your decisions as a leadership quality. Being a civil service public servant, you need to always take up the blame as a leader of a project or in a office at any level. Then there is openness, honesty, and leadership. Openness is nothing but another form of honesty itself. Openness to be able to take decisions with all the stakeholders and the citizens' interest, making it transform into the policies implementation. And then the honesty comes by declaring any kind of a private interest. We have to deviate, we have to divert all the attention from the private motives only to the public interest. And then comes the leadership, which is the most important thing to be a civil servant, because you are having a 27 plus 18 subjects of a district under your hand. You have to have the leadership quality to have to promote such activities that will have a welfare kind of an approach towards the social well-being in the society with all the citizens involved in it. So that is lead by the example principle. So these are the 7 principles of Nolan committee, of which these forms the basic tenets for any foundational values in civil services. And later let's see some brief write-up regarding the foundational values. It says that the civil servant should exhibit such kind of a traits. What kind of a traits? Apart from these 7 principles which Nolan committee has given the recommendation in the UK, he says that it says that this especially this write-up says that public service, you need to serve for the public, you need to serve the public interest as the larger goods. You have to have the empathy, you have to have the tolerance, compassion to weaker sections, and these people possess some aptitude, a kind of a skill, talent which will enable them to realize the needs of these sections of the other society. And they're also responsible and accountable to their actions to the people, to the boss or the hierarchy in the chief secretary or the administrative secretary at their departmental level. They are obviously responsible, but they're actually accountable to the people at the large, because they're serving the people basically with all the kinds of a delivery administrative mechanism. So that is why the power they possess or they are enjoying should not be abused or misused. So some other important attributes in the sense of which acts like a foundational values for any kind of a civil servant is integrity, having accountability, anonymity, commitment, discipline, humility, gratitude, and leadership. So these are various qualities, right? Why are we not discussing right now here? It's because the whole chapter is actually dealing with all these qualities. Each of the topic has been nicely framed and concisely given in a one heading. So before that, there are some thinkers, philosophers who have said something about giving some values or inculcating some values in the civil servants as such. One person, the first person comes is Aristotle. He says that prudence, there are 4 cardinal virtues which we can apply to the civil services also. One is prudence. Prudence is nothing but having a carefulness and sensibleness while making judgments. Why do you judge? Because you are the policy implementation person. In your hands, all the beneficiaries or all the schemes or all the service delivery mechanisms are working under. For you to make a sensible judgment, you have to have this prudence, like a wisdom or discretion based on rationality. And then comes the courage. You can face the pain and opposition or any resistance, may it be from the political class, may it be from the citizens, and you will be able to resolve the conflicts. You need to have the temperance next. Temperance is nothing but you have to restrain the anger and desire and control your behavior at situations. Suppose you are the deputy superintendent of police of your locality. There is a strike going on by the laborers where a flyover has been collapsed in the locality against the builders of the flyover. They were going to strike in the area. So what kind of temperance you will show at that point of situation? You cannot be angry on them. You cannot be aggressive over the situation. You have to handle the situation with all your wisdom, courage, and lot of temperance. That is what is important. You need to know how to control your emotions. That is why emotional intelligence, which will be dealt after this chapter, plays a very important role to control your emotions. You perceive them, you will assess them, and then you will have a social skill towards a rapport in building with the citizens of your place. And then comes the justice. Justice is nothing but righteousness and a fair deal according to Aristotle. He says that you have to be basing on the law, you have to give fair treatment to all of us, all of the people who are catering to. And then one size fits all cannot hold good. So if different civilizations, different societies are built up in a different setup. The Aryan culture is totally different from the Catholic culture, from the Japanese culture or the Chinese culture. So every society has its own needs, and there is a different kinds of approaches that needs to be applied. So that is why he says that we need to concentrate on circumstances before analyzing any kind of general rules. That is why in here we can see the LGBT, when the decriminalization of section 377 happened. Why did it happen? Because the modern society has progressed and it is now accepting the same-sex marriage. So that relevance has been shown by decriminalizing this act. That is where we are trying to move towards not a one-size-fits-all approach. Then there are some moral qualities of a civil servant, which Aristotle has given that there has to be 3 qualities which essentially the civil servant must possess. One is optimism. Optimism as such as an individual, you and me and everybody, to have a progressive life, to have a peace and prosperity in the life, we need to be optimism. We need to be optimistic. Optimistic is nothing but the bureaucracy wants to innovate things, and having a resistance from the rigid or conservative sluggishness, you need to have the optimistic solutions through your innovative methods. And then courage. Courage is nothing but illegal acts or any illegal acts, or suppose the same example which you have already seen, like if you're the deputy SP of your area, you need to control the strike going on by the laborers who were fighting against they were sloganeering against these builders who have built a flyover, and that has led to the death of some laborers. So there what is needed? You have to stand against such illegal activities, and yet conflict resolution is your important thing. That is a foundational value. Objectivity is nothing but you will decide everything based on the rules. Just because your parents' side or your friends or relatives' side, somebody has come to you for some kind of Narega work, it doesn't mean you will award work to him, because you have to purely based it on the merit purpose, based on the criteria that is established through the law. Only then the job has to be given. That is objectivity. And now generally also there are some good qualities. Generally we have to write it in some answers, like how to improve this foundational values or in the civil servants. So then you can write up this brief writing on that. That firstly we need specialization, like the diversified senior management selection posts have to be in function functional areas. That is why the lateral entry concept in the civil services has been introduced. The concept says that lateral entry is promoted on the basis where skillful and talented in the area of respective genre where the people have excelled. Suppose let's take for example if OP Chowdhury is there. This person has been doing tremendous work in terms of left-wing extremist areas. He's building great schools and promoting education and other healthcare or social welfare initiatives. So these persons, when they're taken through the lateral entry, what happens is in the education or in the health-wise sector with the Bimaru states or in the kind of backward states, these people can bring some kind of an innovation because these people already have this expertise. They have this leadership in the times of crisis and to think and act, and they have to be able to even inspire the subordinates whatever may be the consequence. So ISRO is another example where although they have lost the contact with the Vikram lander, still they had this determination that they will obviously find it. Even if they don't find it, they will rejuvenate, they revitalize their efforts and come back with a new Chandrayaan mission. That is the leadership quality. You have to be a good listener because people who come and contact you for this public service deliveries are illiterate and the most vulnerable people. So to be a good administrator, good civil servant, you need to be a good listener and capacity to use the institutional resources because the funds, functionaries and functions, everything will be in your hands. You have to have the capacity to use all these resources and avoid any authority or privileges for your own good. Use it for the public good. And then things that without getting any accustomed to the luxuries or the powers, you shouldn't get. You have to be just like a common man. You are a servant to the people. That is why the name civil servant has been given. And now why is these foundation values important is there are 4 areas which you will cater. You will first advise and analyze some policies, you will deliver it and you will engage the citizen among you, you will manage all the networks like all the operations that are going to take place in the area of concern of administrative setup, and then you will contract and commission also the projects or the schemes. So that is why these foundational values are very important. So let's begin the first foundational value, integrity. The previous sessions have already mentioned like what's the difference, basic difference between honesty and integrity. Please go and check those videos too on the part 2 of unit 1 ethics and human interface, where human values have been dealt in a very brief yet very understanding manner. So please go and check it out. And now here we'll start the discussion with the integrity. Integrity are of 3 types. One is intellectual integrity. Intellectual integrity is nothing but evaluating everyone on the same parameters. Like you have some sense and you will not distinguish just because that person belongs to your caste, that is why you are awarding contract to him. No, everyone is equal to your intellectual integrity. Then there is professional integrity by professional bodies where fair, honest, legal and conformance is through a code of ethics that you follow professionally. Then organization, at the organization level, you believe in the ethical behavior through setting up ethical training at your workplace. That is what organizational integrity is brought about. So these are the 4 important things why integrity is a foundation value, because you self-integrate those values. You understand the other people through your integration into the system. That is where integrity stands as an important principle. For next is that you stand for something. What do you stand for? You stand for the truth, you stand for the equality, you stand for the equity in the society, you stand for the purpose and an identity you will create for these people who all the citizens would be engaged with. And what are the missions or value systems and involved in the proper integrity? Integrity maintains this action behavior led, where ignorance will be totally negated, with the mission values into the system, as well as education and training. That is where your proper action or behavior will be coming out as a civil servant. So integrity is fundamentally a moral concept. So it is based on the ethical competency of you being honest and maintaining the strong, rigid moral principles, where ethics and integrity are totally related. After watching the first unit, you will totally agree to the statement that integrity and ethics are nothing but one and the same, because this is what the strong moral conviction, having strong moral value system towards ethics is nothing but an integrity. And then the ethical person will have strong moral values. That is why we always usually call he is a man of wisdom, he is a man of integrity. Why do we call? So you can call Mr. Abdul Kalam ji as a man of integrity because he has never used his power or position to his own benefit. Once what happened, there were some of his relatives, far distant cousin, who have come to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He has actually offered from his own salary the expenses that were incurred on their stay at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So that is man of integrity. It is evaluated through annual performance report in the civil services, as well as they don't just act consistently with their endorsements, they stand for something. Brand endorsements by the movie stars or their celebrities, favorite celebrities, they just come and go no matter if they use the product or not. But these people who have stand for integrity, they stand for a value system. And then the utility of integrity. What is the use of integrity in governance? You will not use your official position just like Abdul Kalam ji has done. You will comply with all the laws and uphold the administrative justice, and then you will have the accurate records and handle the information in a proper manner. You will have the data, you will not play with the data, or you will not violate any kinds of breaches to it. Any privacy or any kinds of issue will not happen when you have integrity. That is why even in the Facebook, the recent issue where lots of data has been leaked to the Cambridge school has been mentioning the loss of ethics in organization level of Facebook. And then the next comes the keeping accurate records, which we have already dealt, and acting in a way that is professional and deserves to retain the confidence among you as an organization as well as for the people, and fulfilling all your duties and obligations with the managing of resources efficiently by dealing with public and other affairs fairly and selectively and effectively, not accepting any kinds of bribes or gifts or any kind of other materialistic pleasures that will compromise your position. Then comes the next value. We have finished with the integrity value, right? Now we'll finish the impartiality. Impartiality we've always been. You feel that at school or at college or even at the institute level, you feel that some people are more favored. More favoritism is shown. That is impartial. The opposite of it is impartiality. Impartiality is nothing but a justice holding approach, where instead of having a bias or prejudice based on the merits of the individual or the case, based on the merits, the provisions of the services will be provided. So as a civil bureaucrat, all the functions of procurement, recruitment, and then delivery of the service will be only based on the merit, and the behavior and the treatment by a bureaucrat is also should be based on the merit, and he has to be absolutely impartial towards taking decisions effectively and efficiently. And then it's a fair, just and equitable, and reflects the civil services commitment for equality and diversity in a society. That is what it, in other words, we can say that they should not act in a unjustifiable favors or discriminate anybody just because of their personal private gains. And in political impartiality also, in the political sector, simultaneously we can see that you have to serve as a politician or as a civil servant. You have to serve without any political persuasion. Just because after retirement you want to join a political party, you have a political career prospect, that doesn't mean that all your policies and all your actions or behavior towards these political ideology will be aligned. And you have to act in a way that will have the confidence of the ministers as well as the citizens. That is how you balance. That is where the civil servant have the ambiguity. There are very situations where the political pressures will be more and the citizens' delivery mechanisms are also equally important. So which are you going to give weightage for? That is that is a place of ambiguity. So ethics in that point of view gives you a ethical decision making, it helps in. Then the candidates must have not act in a determined way by the political party. That's just another way of saying the previous sentence. So now coming to the objectivity. Objectivity is through the list of do's and don'ts I have just mentioned. Objectivity is nothing but based on the rules and the policy, not based on any values and emotive components. You have to just see the rules and regulations say it or not. So be objective. Don't have anything in your mind, back of your mind, not being subjective to the prejudices or the previous experiences. Rules of impartiality and objectivity are very complementary to each other. Impartiality is nothing but being objective. Only when you can be objective, that is when impartiality can be alone emphasized. So you always, and you also do give out the decisions based on the merit of the case, just like non impartiality does, as well as you should not ignore the inconvenient facts or which are advised to you during the decision making. When your subordinates make some kind of suggestions or the recommendation, you have to try to incorporate them. And for the list of the do's and don'ts, first thing in the do's is that including the advice to ministers on the base of evidence and options and facts, you have to place it in front of them, because that scrutiny is always there in your hand. You are the advisors. As bureaucrats, you are the advisors to the ministers. They want you, they employ you, in the sense they recruit you. The government in itself appoint you to certain levels of positions of the post, like secretary at department levels. Why do they do that? Because you as a person have the knowledge of the rules and regulations of the laws of the country. So in the purview of it, whatever kinds of options you provide them in any kinds of situations, that is going to enhance their public service delivery. So you have to be accurately placing the options and facts, and based on the merits of the case, as well as professional and expert advice in the area. And the don'ts come in the form of information and advice given to the government will be based on evidence and facts, and should also take merits of the case too, with inculcating the training and right to be heard, transparency and information management systems where the data management is done very properly. Then this collection of statistics for decision making will be enhanced. Like suppose a survey needs to be conducted, so information management system should be placed so that the data is collected properly and the data will never be biased or breached with. And then there comes the empathy component. Empathy is another foundational value for the civil services. Empathy, so before going understanding the empathy, we've already seen like compassion, sympathy, many other terms coming up, right? So let's understand the difference between three of them. One is being compassionate towards something is, it's one form of sympathy. So one form of sympathy means, sympathy is you share your feelings with other. You sympathize somebody's your relatives, close relatives, some mishappening has happened in their home, or somebody broke their marriage or a relationship, so you sympathize with them. And compassion, whereas you have a better prediction of their actions, like listen to their all their complaints very patiently. As a civil servant, you also respect the other people's beliefs and rights and other fundamental rights, and their anguish also you listen patiently. So this is what compassion, you want to do something for them in a form of listening or some kind of actions that can bring some happiness in them. Whereas sympathy is only you will feel for them. Oh, that is really bad, something bad has happened to my friend, I feel sorry for them. Compassion is something you want to go and do it by going into their shoes and that situation. And then empathy is a very strong predictor, where you feel empathy is like, just like middle class intelligentsia has helped in empathizing with the towards the independence struggle. That is one form of an example where empathizing, how important empathizing it. And middle class intelligence through lawyers, through students and many other business class communities, these have come up and showed the support for the independence struggle. So that is an example for empathy concept. So let's discuss the detailed aspects of empathy right now. We have just understood the overall difference between compassion, sympathy and empathy. Now there are different types of empathies also. One is cognitive and affective. So the bureaucracy have to be taught to be empathizing with the common man, because the illiterate, vulnerable people would be coming to you for accessing your services. And then you have to develop the right kind of emotional intelligence. Right now I am not discussing here because I've already given a right amount of time for discussing these emotional intelligence concept with a 20 or 30 minute video. Please go and check it out. And then what are the requirements? If you have to have empathy component, what kind of qualities you have to have inside, or what kind of values you have to inculcate? First, you have to be intelligent enough to understand what actually is going on there. You have to listen to them. You have to imagine that situation, like how grave injustice has been done to the laborers at that point of time when the flyover collapsed over them and the two laborers have died in the situation. And you have to personally involve in them without appropriate detachment. So this is the empathy. It's a very strong predictor. Compassion is something like you will listen to them and leave it, but empathy is that you want to do something for them. And then there is unconditional positive regard for this individual. You have a very strong relation to this person, that you want to do something for them. That is empathy concept, with the ability to understand and use the non-verbal cues. Just with the cryings or any kind of gestures, you need to be able to understand or assess the level of situation, level the gravity of the situation at that spot. In governance, how empathy can be used. In governance, appropriate degree of openness, different cultures are there, so empathy is a very important component. And there are changes and opinions, ever changing opinions of the people. You need to accommodate that. Also for that, empathy is a very important thing. You need to have a work environment that can be made enjoyable and productive among your staff members too. You have to be aware of the changing environment and adapt to it timely, with appropriate degree of openness and cross-cultural situations. What kind of promotion does empathy brings in the societal level? Also social awareness, conflict management will be reduced, and then intergroup interaction would increase, teamwork would begin, interpersonal trust among your staff and your boss will increase, organizational productivity, as well as good emotional control. When you know empathy, when you empathize with the other people, you know like where to control your emotions with a good emotional intelligence. So here itself also there are some do's and don'ts. What you have to do is always be fair, justice and equitably, be maintaining the political impartiality, let not the political persuasion affect your working manner, and then retain the confidence of the ministers as well as same way balancing the common people interests as well, and also comply with all the restrictions laid down by the political activities. Then you shouldn't favor or discriminate any particular individual just because of your personal interest. Never use the official resources for any party political purposes, and allow these political views to determine any kind of an advice, but it should not affect the merit of the case. So the last write-up in this point of empathy is that it says that civil servant to be impartial to the nation is, in the age of corruption and nepotism, is a very difficult thing, because there are losing principles of neutrality and rule of law is growing very tremendously, and the political climate is also not favoring really strong values in the system. A stable government is not favoring it, and as well as the role and responsibility of civil services is increasing. Thus these political pressures they are getting succumbed to. Then the need of the hour is nothing but just get insulated from the politicization of the services. So by what can you just get away with the politicization? Be empathetic, be integrity, cultivate the integrity principle in you. And next point, the important point is that be non-partisanship or have the political neutrality. So it is nothing but you are not aligned to any of the party, group or any cause. You do not favor any political party, and without any fear you just take up the task, no matter which religion is talking what against you, doesn't matter at all. Values of administrator will flow from the constitution, not from any political party. And then the process of not involving a political party with a strong faith in the, even if you have some political thought in your mind, but still that shouldn't impact your working style of administration. So these are the few of the foundational values I have dealt it, because if I add some more values it becomes really lengthy and that will not be interesting as such. So let's see the answer writing questions pertaining to these few values which we have discussed. So the answer writing question says that why should the impartiality and non-partisanship be considered as a foundational value, which we have just discussed, like why is it an important thing, what happens if you don't follow it, and especially in the present day context what is happening. So let's illustrate with an example also. Durga Shakti Nagpal, she was never getting influenced, or no, you can also take this example of D. Rupa. She was the jailer at where the person relating to Jayalalitha's relative who has been placed in the jail, and she was moving in and out of the jail. She was being given all the kinds of services and like a VIP services, although she is a culprit in a case. So that way she was against the regime of the Karnataka government, she went on to write a report to the governor itself. So that shows her impartiality and non-partisanship. She was not aligned to any of the political parties. She just went and with the courage, she just faced the government of that time. So for this, that could be an example. And the write-up would start with impartiality and non-partisanship is solely on the basis of the merits of the case. And impartiality and politically neutral services is that the spoil system is in the order. The spoil system is nothing but the bureaucracy. So the degeneration of the system because of the patronage or the nepotism, favoritism is being creeping in the corruption phenomena into this civil services. That is why having a non-partisan civil service is very important, by being only responsible and accountable to the constitution of the land, because you derive all your powers from the constitution of the land. So you take an oath of loyalty to it. That is why you have to follow only the principles which are enshrined in the constitution. And thus the political neutrality is also no longer needed, as the accepted norm, as civil servants are identified with particular party dispensation. Usually everybody has a political thought aligned to it. That is why their actions are also cleanly and very explicitly evident from it. And lastly, you can also write something like officers cultivate and seek patronage because they want some positions after their post retirement. This is another issues going on. So in the present context, the question has three parts. See, why should we follow this impartiality and non-partisanship? That is one point. Second one is, in present day social political context, discuss this issue. And third one, give an example substantiating it. I have given you two important examples. That is more than enough. But please don't replicate the same examples in the answer, because people who are watching these series will use the same example, and you have to bring that dynamism or the differentiation between him and your paper is through examples. I urge you to just form some examples on the day-to-day basis from your newspaper understanding and your surroundings. You just go on to the Twitter, you will find different kinds of examples every day. So some or the other controversy comes in. So you can use these examples through illustrating for answer writing. So that is it for this part 2 of aptitude and key foundational values for civil services. We have only done very few values. One is integrity, impartiality, objectivity, empathy, and we have done also this non-partisanship or political neutrality. In the next session, we'll come up with some more key foundational values and wind up the aptitude portion of basically the unit 3. Okay, thank you, and keep following the series and keep learning. Happy studying. Jai Hind.